The guitar has cheat codes, and those are called octave shapes. So I'm Jake, and for the past 16 years, I've been teaching the coolest people on the internet to play guitar. The guitar does not make sense when you look at it, at least not the way a piano does. So when you look at a piano, you've got 5 black keys, you've got 7 white keys, you can see patterns. Okay, 2 black keys and 3 white keys and 3 black keys, and then you just know pretty quickly which notes are C, which notes are B flat, which notes are F sharp, and which notes are A. But on the guitar, we look at it and it's just a bunch of lines and dots. We have frets and we have strings. But the strings are tuned not exactly the same. We have 5th fret, 5th fret, 5th fret, 4th fret. So the B string is kind of different. Then we go back to 5th fret. So one of the strings is tuned differently from the rest. And then our dots, like, well, what does it mean? So 3rd fret is G. Okay, but then 5th fret is G. Oh, but then 8th fret is G. Oh, but then 12th fret is G. Okay, well, why is it those frets? If I have this 3rd fret is B flat, well, why? Why is that 3rd fret B flat? What about 3rd fret makes it B flat? And that's what can make guitar a little confusing compared to piano, because there's no logical connection between the dots. When we see the side of the neck and we see those dots, the double dots just means it's 12th fret. It's halfway up the guitar. It's a visual representation to tell you, hey, those double dots are going to be the same note as open. Okay, that's helpful. But what does the 3rd dot, the 5th dot, the 7th, and the 9th dot mean? They're just showing us where the odd frets are so that we can more easily see. If you've ever played a guitar without those dots, it's a little harder to orient yourself, sometimes even back playing these open chords. It can be a little trickier just because our brain isn't instantly seeing it and going, that's 5th fret. We kind of have to count and think. You can get used to it. A lot of players play without dots, but hopefully you get my point. So how do we map out the neck so that we can instantly see notes as quickly as we might see them on the piano? Because our guitar heroes do that, our favorite players do that, so it must be possible. There must be a way to learn it, and there is. And the way that we do that is by learning the 5 octave shapes. I'm going to break this down in 3 steps for you. First, I'm going to show you the 5 octave shapes so that you know what each one is. Then I'm going to show you how you can connect all 5 of them to see the whole neck. And lastly, I'm going to explain how you can use those octave shapes as sort of a frame that you can hang scales and chords and triads and all sorts of things on, so that you can clearly see whatever it is you're learning wherever you need to on the neck of the guitar. So you might have heard of caged before, and a lot of people use that as this whole system for learning scales, and please don't worry, that's not what we're about to do. But we can use those 5 chord names for our 5 octave shapes, and let me walk you through it. If you know an open C chord, there are multiples of notes in there. So the notes that we play when we play a C chord are C, E, G, C, E. Okay. So you noticed we had a couple E's, we had a couple C's. Well, those 2 C's are these 2 notes here. It's 3rd fret on the A string or the 5th string, and then it is 1st fret on the 2nd string, the B string. This is what we would call our C shape octave. Now we call it C shape because we stole it from the C chord. You could also think of this as shape 1, if that's easier for you, because we're about to move this shape other places and get different notes. Let me show you. If I slide up 1 fret, so I go from 3rd to 4th and 1st to 2nd, I'm now playing the note C sharp or D flat in shape 1. Okay, well, what if I move up 1 more fret? Now we're at D. D sharp or E flat, E, F, F sharp or G flat, G, G sharp or A flat, A sharp or B flat, B, and then finally, we're back at C. So I've gone through all 12 keys using just this 1 octave shape. And like I said, there's 5 octave shapes. So I just taught you the C octave shape. Let's go ahead and look at our shape 2 or A shape octave shape. So we're going to have open on the 5th string, and we're going to have 2nd fret on the 3rd string. Now I'm pulling this out of the A major chord. When we start to move this, open 5th string, 2nd fret on the 3rd string, I actually need to slide up, So I'm taking that second fret on the third string to third fret, but I also then need to take my open fifth string and I need to put my finger on first fret to play A sharp or B flat. Next fret would be B, C, C sharp or D flat, D, and you get the idea. We could keep this moving. So the biggest thing with this one is when we slide up one fret, we need to make sure we bring that fret, that fifth string that was open with us. Okay, so that is A shape or shape 2. So shape 3 we're going to steal from our G major chord. So we have third fret on the thickest string and third fret on the thinnest string, and then we have open third string. So we actually have 3 notes for this octave shape. Now the reason we have 3 notes for this octave shape is because our outside 2 strings are both E, so we default have both those. If we have 1 E string, we have 2 E strings, and then that third string can be open. Now this shape is really hard to play physically when we start to slide up. So if I slide up 1 fret and then I have to reach back with my index finger. Now I also don't have a pinky, so I'm doing tons of stretching here. You probably have a pinky, so you could use your ring finger and then you could put your pinky on the thinnest string. I don't have that luxury, at least right now. So because of that, I don't actually play this as a shape altogether. I tend to play just the thickest string, and I tend to play my third string. This is what I use for the octave shape, and then I just know that my thinnest string is also there. And you can do that exact same thing. You don't have to fight to do it. The goal with these octave shapes is not to play them like we're gonna, strum and slide around the neck. That's not what these are for. It's so that we can see where any particular note is. And I'm gonna walk us through how we do that. But the goal is that we're able to visually see this shape, not necessarily play it. So I was at G, then I can go up 1 fret to G sharp. And remember, I had open third string, so it's gotta be fretted. Up 1 fret to A sharp or B flat, B, C, and so on up the neck of the guitar. So that takes us to shape 3. So now we need to do shape 4. Now I take shape 4 from my E major chord. So my outside 2 strings are my root notes, and then also string 4, right? The D string. Those are all E's. And if I move up 1 fret, I'm just gonna bar across, not because I'm trying to play every single note, but just because I'm trying to get my outside 2 strings. So it's fret 1, fret 3 on the 4th string, and fret 1 on the 1st string. So those are F's. F sharp, G, G sharp or A flat, A sharp or B flat, B, C, and so on up the neck. And our last octave shape comes out of a D chord. And so that's going to be 4th string open, and then it's going to be 3rd fret on the 2nd string. And then if I slide 3rd fret up 1 fret to 4th, and then I fret 1st fret on the 4th string, it becomes D sharp or E flat, E, F, F sharp or G flat, G. Now, you can see I'm having to do this stretch. You might want to use your pinky, again, if you have one. And that'll allow you to play that shape a little bit easier. So now we've got our 5 octave shapes. They're coming from the C, A, G, E, and D chord. Or again, you can call them shape 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's really important that you're not thinking, oh, it's G shape, so it's the note G. That's not the case. We're just taking that octave shape from a G chord. So calling it G shape is a shorthand, which is why I like to call them shape 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which is what I'm going to plan on doing for the rest of the video. So what happens is right now we've moved these chromatically. We've shown how we can find each octave shape for every key, and we can just slide them up the neck. But what's really cool is we can string them together one into the other, where I'm playing shape 1, shape 2, shape 3, shape 4, and shape 5. And I can quickly play, I just did, all the C notes on the guitar. But I could also do the same thing for all the Fs. Or any note. And so I can quickly see where all of any particular note are across the neck by being able to see and connect these octave shapes. So let's talk about how to do that, and let's do it in the key of C. So I'm going to start with shape 1, right? I've got shape 1 here. I take my finger that's towards the headstock and I replace my finger that's towards the body, and I make my next shape, which is shape 2. Then I do the same thing. I replace my finger towards the body with my finger towards the headstock, and I make shape 3. Then I replace my finger towards the body with my finger towards the headstock, and I make shape 4. Then I replace my finger closest to the body with my finger closest to the headstock, and I play shape 5. And I could keep going. I replace my finger closest to the body with my finger closest to the headstock, and then I play shape 1. Now, this cycle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, that repeats over and over again. So let's say I'm doing it in the key of F. Well, I start with shape 4 because that's my lowest F I can find. I just find the lowest one I can, and then I find, well, I can't go back to play shape 3 because I'm out of frets, so I come up to play shape 4. And I do the same thing. So I'm on shape 4, then I replace my finger closest to the body with my finger closest to the headstock, and I play shape 5. Replace the body finger with the headstock finger. After 5 comes 1. Replace my finger closest to the body with the finger closest to the headstock. Shape 2. Finger closest to the body with finger closest to the headstock. Shape 3. And then finger closest to the body with the finger closest to the headstock. Shape 4. Right? We can just go in this cycle. So whatever note we need to find, we can do that. Now, practicing these particular shapes is so useful because as we get really used to seeing that cycle of shape 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it becomes really easy to play any note. I just played G, okay? I know that that's a G because I know that this is a G, this is a G, and this is a G. I'm going from shape 4 to shape 5. But I also know that this is a G because that's part of my shape 2. I can see all these things very, very quickly because I've practiced going through these cycles over and over. And when I'm in one shape, I know what's coming. And this lets me look at the guitar neck and see it, not exactly like a piano where I can see every key and it's instantly recognizable, but virtually instantly, I can see that this is a C, and then I also know that this and this are Cs without having to do very much work. In the beginning, my brain is having to code these things one at a time. C, and then shape 1, and then to shape 2. But what happens is much like learning to drive, where at the beginning we're checking all our mirrors and making sure we're turning correctly and we're jerky on the gas and the brake, but eventually our mind turns it into one activity driving. Our brain will do the same thing where instead of thinking, okay, well, I have to see that this is shape 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4 and then so this is also a C. Your brain will go, okay, the C's, and we can just find them really quickly across the neck. That's why this is so powerful. Now, if this has been helpful to you so far, before we jump into, well, how do I use this for scales and chords and all that stuff? We're going to jump into that in a second. I just want to invite you to join me for free in my course and community at school.com/guitar. So I have a lot more information on this in there. I've got longer courses, more detail, and a lot more things that we can go over than I can do in this one YouTube video. So if this is helpful for you, please consider joining me there at school.com/guitar. Okay, so the third thing we were going to go through is taking these shapes and then using them as a framework where we can hang things on. So we're not going to have enough time in this video for me to make you an exhaustive list of every scale or chord you could possibly use. But what I want to show you is exactly how we can use this to be the framework that we use to map out the entire neck. Okay, so we're going to stay in the key of C and we're going to use shape 2. So this is our octave shape. If I play a bar chord here, this is my A-shaped bar chord. This is my A-shaped bar chord. You've probably, you know 2, usually we play E shape, we play A shape. Those are our kind of first bar chords we learn. What I want to see is I have this octave shape in here, and I have this particular bar chord. Okay, so now those are connected in my mind. But what if I had also worked on playing my C major pentatonic scale? Okay, well now I see this octave shape, and I've got this chord, and I've got this pentatonic scale. That's really helpful because now those two things can go together in my mind. But what if I also here notice that I also have, let's say, my 4th shape, G, is right here. And the song is going from a C chord to, say, a G chord. Now, I can notice, well, oh, hey, I've got my E-shaped bar chord here, or shape 4 bar chord, whatever you have. I see that chord there. But maybe I also see my G major pentatonic scale. And so when we play the C chord, I can solo with that C major pentatonic scale. And when we go to the G, I can solo with the G major pentatonic. And then back to the C, when I go to the C chord, right? The C major pentatonic scale. Now, let's say I didn't just know my G major pentatonic, maybe I know G mixolydian. Now, that could really make that G sound like a 5 chord and the C sound like a 1 chord. It could just pull out the sound of that chord progression a little bit more. So when I'm soloing over the C chord, I start with that C major pentatonic. Then when I go to G, I go to the G mixolydian, back to the C major pentatonic when I get to my C chord. So now everything that I know, because it's anchored to those root shapes, allows me, or octave shapes, allows me to pull those out wherever I am. So that worked for a C chord and a G chord. So I want to show you 2 more ways that this can work. Well, what if I change keys? What if I'm going from an E flat chord to a B flat chord? Well, hey, I know my chords and I know my scales. Right? I can just pull them because they're connected to the octave shape, shape 2. What if I'm not going to a different key? What if I want to play C to G at a different part of the neck? Again, anything that I've learned, for example, maybe I know this G chord here, this C chord here, and this G chord, right? I know that this C is from my shape 4, and as I've learned my triads, I know that this is my shape 1G. Well, because I know my shape 4C and my shape 1G chords and scales, I can quickly start soloing over that chord progression in a different part of the neck, again, anchored to those octave shapes. Now, if we're going to start working on doing these octave shapes, we are going to need to have control over our left-hand fingers. And this exercise takes 2 minutes a day as a warm-up, and it's going to give you confident fingers, controlled fingers, and help you play scales, chords, and anything you could want on guitar. It's my favorite exercise. Give it a check out.